Have you ever told yourself, I'll start tomorrow when I feel more motivated? Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and that big dream of yours remains untouched. We've all been there, trapped in the loop of waiting for a magical feeling that never shows up. But what if the very thing you are waiting for is actually keeping you stuck? In this beautiful story of a young rabbit named Oliver and a wise old turtle, you're about to discover the brutal truth about motivation that no one tells you. Make sure you watch until the very end, because the unexpected advice Oliver receives from his mother in Chapter 4 and the hidden life lesson revealed at the final harvest will completely change the way you look at your goals, your laziness, and your future. Stop waiting. Let's begin. The story, Stop Waiting for Motivation. Chapter 1, The Dream in the Burrow. Once upon a time, nestled between rolling green hills and whispering forests, there was a peaceful little village called Oakwood. In this village, life moved at a gentle pace. The birds sang at dawn, the streams trickled with sweet water, and the soil was rich and fertile. In a cozy, small burrow right at the edge of the village farms lived a young rabbit named Oliver. Oliver was a handsome young rabbit. He had fur as soft and white as fresh cotton, and his eyes were bright, sparkling with hope and big ideas. Oliver lived with his kind mother, who cared for him deeply. But like many young rabbits, Oliver spent a lot of his time inside his own head, dreaming. And oh, how he loved to dream. Oliver's biggest dream was to grow the most magnificent, beautiful carrot garden in all of Oakwood. In his mind, he could see it perfectly. He imagined neat, endless rows of plump, sweet orange carrots. He could almost see their bright green tops swaying gracefully in the morning breeze. He dreamed of the day when animals from faraway villages would travel for miles just to gaze at his wonderful creation. He could already hear their cheers and praises. Every single morning, Oliver would wake up, stretch his long ears, and think to himself with excitement. Today is the day. Today, I am finally going to start my garden. But then, Oliver would take a few steps outside his warm burrow. He would feel the chilly morning air nip at his nose. He would look at the hard, unplowed earth and sigh. The cozy warmth of his bed would call out to him. Maybe tomorrow, Oliver would whisper to himself, shivering slightly. Tomorrow the weather will be warmer. Tomorrow I will feel more energetic. Tomorrow, I will feel more motivated. Days turned into weeks. Weeks slowly turned into months. The seasons began to change, but Oliver's garden remained exactly the same, nothing but a beautiful, unfulfilled dream locked inside his head. Chapter 2, The Wisdom of the Slow. One sunny afternoon, Oliver hopped out of his burrow and noticed his neighbor, an old tortoise named Arthur, working diligently in his field. Arthur was old, and he was slow. Very, very slow. Because of his heavy shell and aged joints, every single movement took him a long time. Lifting a spade, turning the soil, dropping a seed, it all looked like an immense effort. Yet, Oliver noticed something remarkable about the old tortoise. Every single day, without fail, rain or shine, Arthur was out there in his field, moving forward, bit by bit. Curiosity finally got the better of the young rabbit. Oliver hopped over to the edge of the fence. "Mr. Arthur," Oliver called out, tilting his ears. "Don't you ever get tired? Don't you ever just want to rest in your shell and wait until you actually feel like working?" Arthur stopped his work. He rested his old hands on his walking stick and looked at Oliver with wise, gentle eyes. A soft smile wrinkled his face. "My dear Oliver," Arthur said, his voice deep and calm. "I stopped waiting for motivation many, many years ago. If I only waited until I felt like working, the weeds would have choked my field, and my family would have starved a long time ago." Oliver scratched his head, completely puzzled. "But sir, I don't understand. How can you possibly force yourself to work when you don't feel motivated? How do you find the energy?" Arthur smiled warmly. He walked over to a large, smooth rock beneath a shady tree and sat down slowly. He patted the space right next to him, inviting the young rabbit over. Oliver hopped over and sat down, his ears drooping in confusion. "Let me tell you something very important, young man," Arthur began. "Motivation is like the wind. Sometimes it blows strongly, lifting you up. Sometimes it dies down completely, leaving you stranded. It is fickle. It comes and it goes. But hard work. Work is like the sun. The sun does not care how it feels. It rises every single day, shedding light upon the world, whether we are ready for it or not." Oliver looked down at his own paws. "But sir, motivation is what gives us the happy feeling to start, isn't it?" "Motivation is just a feeling, Oliver," Arthur explained patiently, pointing a wrinkled claw toward the sky. "Feelings come and go just like clouds drifting across the blue sky. You cannot build a life on a passing cloud. Commitment, however, is not a feeling. It is a decision. When you truly commit to a goal, you show up to do it, whether you feel motivated or not." Chapter 3. The Pain of the First Steps. That night, Oliver could not sleep. Arthur's words kept echoing in his mind like the steady beat of a drum. Commitment is a decision. The sun rises every day. He looked at his soft paws, then thought about his empty field. He realized he had been waiting for a magical feeling that might never come. The next morning, before the sun even cleared the horizon, Oliver made a firm choice. He didn't feel particularly excited. He actually felt quite tired. But he told himself, motivated or not, today I begin. He walked out to his field, picked up a heavy spade, and began to dig. The first day was incredibly hard. Oliver had never done such heavy labor before. Within just a few hours, his soft white paws were red, blistered, and throbbing with pain. His back felt stiff. As the hours dragged on, doubt crept into his mind. Why am I doing this? He thought. Is a carrot garden really worth all this misery? But every time he wanted to drop the spade, he pictured old Arthur's face and kept digging. The second day was even worse. When Oliver woke up, his entire body ached. Every muscle protested. The sun climbed high into the sky, beating down mercilessly on his back. The dirt felt harder, and the progress seemed so small. He wanted nothing more than to drop everything, run back to his comfortable, shady burrow, and take a long nap. But a small, quiet voice inside his heart whispered, "Just for today. Do not worry about tomorrow's work. Just finish today's work." Days passed, blending into weeks. Some days, a sudden wave of excitement would hit Oliver. He would look at his progress and feel thrilled. Those were the easy days. He worked with a song on his lips. But most days, he felt absolutely nothing special. He felt ordinary, bored, and tired. The work felt heavy and endless. Yet, every single morning, Oliver made the decision to show up. He dug the earth. He planted the seeds. He carried heavy buckets of water. Chapter 4. The Temptation to Quit. One warm afternoon, while Oliver was bending over his rows of soil, wiping sweat from his brow, a young deer named Florence came trotting by. She stopped by the fence, her coat sleek and beautiful, completely untouched by dirt. "Oliver," Florence called out cheerfully. "Why in the world are you working so hard in this blazing heat? Look at you. You are covered in mud. Come along with us to the river. The whole group is going. The water is so cool, crisp, and refreshing. We are going to splash around and play all afternoon." Oliver paused. He listened closely. In the distance, he could actually hear the faint, joyful laughter of his friends playing by the river. The temptation hit him like a wave. His mouth was dry, his muscles were sore, and the thought of jumping into a cool, refreshing river sounded like heaven. He looked down at his garden. It was only half finished. If he left now, the midday sun might dry out the fresh soil he had just turned. With a heavy heart but a steady voice, Oliver shook his head. "Thank you, Florence. The river sounds wonderful. But not today. I have a commitment here. I have work to do." Florence laughed, tossing her head back. "Oh, Oliver, you are no fun anymore. Don't you know that life is short? Life is meant to be enjoyed, not spent sweating over dirt. With a leap, she turned and bounded away toward the river. After she left, a heavy silence fell over the field. Oliver stood alone with his spade. Her words stung. He felt a deep pang of sadness and loneliness. Maybe she is right, he thought bitterly. Maybe I am just throwing away my youth. Maybe I am being foolish wasting my days here while everyone else is happy. That evening, Oliver returned to his burrow, slumped his shoulders, and sat quietly in the corner. His mother, noticing the heavy cloud of sadness over her son, walked over gently and placed a loving paw on his head. "What is troubling your heart, my son?" she asked softly. Oliver looked up, his eyes glassy. "Mom, I work every single day on this garden. Most days, I am not motivated at all. I am just tired. My friends are out laughing and having fun, while I am here, day after day, digging in the dirt until my paws bleed. Am I being foolish, Mom? Am I chasing a silly dream?" His mother pulled him into a warm, tight embrace. She held him close for a long moment, until his breathing slowed down. "Oliver, do you remember your father?" she asked, her voice dropping to a gentle whisper. Oliver nodded softly. His father had passed away when Oliver was still very small, but he remembered a large, strong rabbit with kind eyes. "Your father was the hardest working rabbit Oakwood has ever known," his mother said proudly. People from all over the village used to lean over his fence and ask him, "How do you do it? How do you keep the energy to work so much?" Do you know what your father would always tell them? "What, Mom?" Oliver asked, looking up. He would look them straight in the eye and say, "I don't work because I feel like it. I work because my family needs me. I work because my future needs me. I work because I know that today's hard work is the only thing that creates tomorrow's easy life." Tears spilled over Oliver's eyelids and ran down his white fur. His mother wiped his tears away and smiled. "My boy, motivation is a luxury that makes work feel easy. But discipline is a duty that makes work actually happen. Your father taught me that truth. And looking at you now, out in that field, I see your father living on in you." Chapter 5. Through Rain and Scorching Sun. With a renewed spirit and a heart full of fire, Oliver went back to his field. He no longer looked back. Weeks rolled into months, and the seasons turned. Soon, the great autumn rains arrived. The sky turned dark gray, and the downpour fell in heavy, relentless sheets. The ground turned into thick, sticky mud. Many days, Oliver had to work while shivering, drenched to the bone, his paws sinking deep into the cold clay. The other animals stayed curled up inside their warm, dry homes, sipping warm drinks and watching the rain from their windows. They looked out at the crazy white rabbit in the field and shook their heads. But Oliver didn't care about their whispers. He remembered the lesson. This was not about feelings. This was about commitment. After the rains, the hot summer came. The sun was absolutely merciless, baking the earth into a hard crust. The heat was so intense during the middle of the day that it was impossible to work. Did Oliver stop? No. He adapted. He changed his routine. He woke up hours before the dawn, while the stars were still out, to carry water to his precious plants in the cool morning air. Then, he would return in the late evening, working under the gentle light of the moon when the sun's harsh glare had finally faded. It was completely exhausting, but he kept moving forward, one day at a time. One quiet evening, a young squirrel named George walked up to the edge of the garden. George had been watching Oliver's steady progress for months. "Oliver," George said, his eyes full of awe, "I see what you have built here. It is incredible. I want to start my own hazelnut orchard, but I just can't seem to get started. Can you please teach me your secret? How do you stay so incredibly motivated every single day?" Oliver paused his watering can and let out a soft, genuine laugh. "A secret? George, I have absolutely no secret. And to be honest with you, most days I don't have a single drop of motivation." George looked completely confused, tilting his head. Then how do you do all of this? Look at this place. How do you keep going? I just do it, Oliver said simply, looking out over his green sprouts. Whether I feel like it or whether I don't. Whether the rain is pouring down on my head or the sun is burning my back. Whether I wake up full of energy or completely exhausted, I choose to stand up, I walk out to this field, and I do the work. That is all there is to it. George gasped slightly. But that sounds so incredibly hard. It sounds so painful. It is hard, George, Oliver admitted openly, looking down at his scarred, calloused paws. But you know what is much harder? Living with regret. Looking back at your life when you are old and thinking, I could have built something beautiful, but I spent my whole life waiting to feel motivated. Chapter 6, The Harvest of Discipline. Finally, after almost a full year of daily, unchanging effort, Oliver's garden was fully grown. The day of the harvest arrived. The sight was absolutely breathtaking. The carrot tops were a lush, vibrant forest of deep green, waving proudly in the wind. And beneath them, growing perfectly out of the well-tended soil, were thousands of the largest, brightest, most beautiful orange carrots Oakwood had ever seen. They seemed to glow like gold under the warm afternoon sun. Word spread like wildfire. Animals from every corner of Oakwood, and even from neighboring valleys, gathered around Oliver's field. The air was filled with gasps of amazement and loud cheers. "Oh, Oliver, you are so incredibly talented," shouted one animal. "Wow, you are so lucky to have such a beautiful garden," called out another. Oliver smiled and thanked them politely, but he knew the truth. Through the crowded gathering, old Arthur the tortoise slowly made his way to the front. He walked up to Oliver, looked at the magnificent field, and then looked into the eyes of the young rabbit. Slowly, Arthur placed a gentle, warm paw on Oliver's shoulder. "You did it, young man," Arthur whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You did it. Not because you were talented. Not because you were lucky. But because you chose to show up and face the dirt every single day." Oliver smiled, a few happy tears finally slipping down his cheeks. "You were right, Mr. Arthur. Motivation is just like the wind. But commitment is the sun." From that glorious day forward, Oliver was no longer just known as the rabbit with a beautiful garden. He became a teacher and a guide to all the young animals in the village. Whenever a young animal would come to him and say, "I have a big dream, Oliver, but I'm just waiting until I feel motivated to start," Oliver would sit them down under the shade of the trees. He would tell them his story. He would show them his calloused paws, and he would give them this piece of advice. Do not waste your life waiting for motivation to strike. Start before you are ready. Work before you feel like it. Show up to your life even when it is hard, even when it hurts, and even when you are bored. Because motivation does not create action. It is your action that finally creates motivation. Years came and went. Oliver's garden grew larger, grander, and more bountiful with each passing season. But far more than the garden, it was Oliver's wisdom that truly flourished. He had discovered the ultimate secret to a meaningful life. That the world rewards those who show up anyway, who try anyway, and who work anyway. True success never belongs to those who sit around waiting for the perfect, comfortable moment. Success belongs entirely to those who take an imperfect, uncomfortable moment and make it perfect through the quiet power of discipline. Motivation life lesson from this story. The core lesson, the myth of motivation. Most people fail to reach their dreams because they are waiting for a feeling. They think successful people have a magical pool of energy that makes them want to work every day. This story teaches us that motivation is a trap. If you only work when you feel like it, you will never build anything great. 4. Powerful life lessons from Oliver's garden. 1. Motivation is the wind, commitment is the sun. The lesson, motivation changes constantly. It depends on your mood, the weather, and your energy. It comes and goes like a gust of wind. The action, be like the sun instead. The sun doesn't look at the weather report or ask how it feels. It just rises and shines every single day. Make a decision to show up for your goals, no matter how you feel. 2. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. The lesson: Oliver thought he needed to feel excited before he could pick up the spade. But the truth is, the happy feeling of success only comes after you start doing the hard work. The action: stop waiting for the perfect moment. Pick up your tools and start working for just 10 minutes. You will find that once you start moving, the energy to finish follows. 3. Discipline beats talent and luck. The lesson: at the end of the story, the other animals called Oliver talented and lucky. They only saw the beautiful harvest, not the months of bleeding paws and rainy days. The action: do not rely on luck. The only recipe for real success is consistency. Showing up on your worst days matters much more than working hard only on your best days. 4. Regret hurts more than hard work. The lesson: Oliver's paws hurt, his back ached, and he missed out on playing by the river. But as he told George the squirrel, the pain of working is nothing compared to the pain of looking back at your life and wishing you had tried. The action: choose your pain. You can either choose the temporary pain of discipline today or the permanent pain of regret tomorrow. The ultimate takeaway: success doesn't come to those who wait for the perfect moment. Success comes to those who create the moment by working, even when they don't feel like it. Final thoughts. Oliver's garden didn't grow because of a magical feeling. It grew because he chose to dig when his paws were bleeding, water when he was exhausted, and show up when the world told him to go play. Remember, you don't need a wave of motivation to start building your dream. You just need to make a decision. If this story sparked something inside you today, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales of wisdom and discipline. Let's start a movement right now in the comments. I want you to drop the phrase, "I am the sun," in the comments below if you are committing today to stop waiting for the wind of motivation and start showing up for your future. What is that one project or dream you've been putting off? Share it with the community. Let's keep each other accountable. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Click on the video on your screen right now to dive into our next story, and remember, don't wait until you're ready. Start anyway. See you in the next story.